Good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting September the 26th, 2023 from 6 to 8 p.m. It is live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, and public comments may be submitted prior to our meeting via voicemail or email. My name is Bobette Mays and I am the chair, and I represent 28803 and 28704, and I'll let each one of the committee members introduce themselves. We'll start with Joe Taylor.
Yes, I'm Joe Taylor. I live in Beaver Dam Valley, and I represent 28804.
Hi, I'm Moira Belange. I live in the West Asheville area, and I represent 28806 and 28728.
My name is Elise Martyr. I also reside in West Asheville, and I am an at-large member.
I'm Sandra Frimpong. I reside in East Asheville, and I represent 28805.
Elizabeth Likas, I'm an at-large member and reside in Oakley 28803.
Jake Smith, residing in 28801, at-large member.
I'm Dane Berriger. I live downtown. I'm an at-large member, but I'm in 28801 also.
Thank you. And we have with us Dowell Hitch. We have my friend Christina and my best friend Meredith with us. She didn't bring Lily though, but that's okay. So let's review. Has everybody had a chance to review of the retreat agenda and approval of the draft minutes? And if you have, can I get a motion? Let's just make a motion on both of those, the agenda and the draft minutes, if we don't have any questions or comments.
So moved.
I need a second.
I second.
Any questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Unopposed? Do we have any voicemail, emails, anything of that nature?
There were no public comments for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to the NAC member neighborhood outreach. Christina, overview of neighborhood map navigation highlights and at-large outreach districts.
All right, well, thank you, Chair Mays, and good evening, committee. Just need to give myself a mouse to work with here real quick. So we had talked at your August meeting about going over some information that could be helpful for you all as you're looking at how you as committee members want to do outreach. And so I wanted to share with you resources that you have at your disposal for that. And so you've got a couple of things printed out, and we'll go into those in more detail as I show you. But the first thing is the neighborhood map. And if you've never been to the city's neighborhood services page, I'm just going to type it into a Google search bar. And we'll see what comes up. Neighborhood Services, Asheville. There we are. Okay, so there's our Neighborhood Services webpage. You could also type it in the search bar on the city's website and come to it that way. And there's a lot of good information on this page, but what I wanted to show you all was the Map Asheville Neighborhood Web Map. And so its default is, as you see, it's kind of zoomed in, and you can zoom out to see the full picture. So what is represented on this map are the neighborhood associations that have contacted the city to register. So currently, by my count, there's 82 of those, which is a lot. If you go to Nextdoor, not nextdoor.com, some folks use Nextdoor, some don't, but there's 208 neighborhoods in Asheville on Nextdoor. So that's considerably more. So before we, go into your sort of, zones, I just wanted to say about neighborhood registration that it's it's sometimes characterized, I've heard it characterized by community members as like, this is the city officially recognizing your neighborhood. And for us, it's honestly less about that and just more about an opportunity for us to have your contact information so that in the event of emergencies, we have a call list and an email list, and we can provide direct outreach and communication, which is really, really helpful. And also, if your neighborhood meets, then we have the ability to say, hey, you know, we've got a project coming up and that might be important to residents in your neighborhood. Would you like someone from the staff to come and, you know, deliver some information at your next neighborhood meeting? So we can just provide a higher level of coordination with neighborhoods. That's what this is very helpful to us for. And hopefully it's two-way communication, and hopefully as people are registering their neighborhoods, they're keeping in mind to keep us updated whenever, you know, they go through an election cycle and the president role changes to another person, or if they upgrade and get a website and they have a different email address for the main contact, that sort of stuff. But we do rely on people to contact us. We're not psychic just yet, and we just don't know when those things change. So you'll look around the edges of the neighborhood map, and there are some dark blue lines, and those are Asheville city limits. That might be obvious to some, but you'll see that there are neighborhoods that go outside of, they're partially inside of city limits, and some of them go outside of the city limits into Buncombe County, like Beaver Dam Valley is a really large neighborhood in the north, or the Emma neighborhood in West Asheville. So those are just some, you know, fun facts. So if you look at the bottom of the neighborhood map, there's this little black box with a white arrow. It's the attribute table is what it's called. And these things take a minute to load, so when you're doing this at home, don't get frustrated. It's going to come up. But this is how you can access the contact information that we have inside the neighborhood map. So it pulls up this table, and, you know, like I said, there's 82 entries, so there's kind of a lot to look at there. But if you like, you can download it. So there's some other options that you can explore, filtering the map by extent and fun GIS stuff. But if you click on the options, you can export all to a spreadsheet. And just click OK. And it will pull that. You can pull up that download, and then you'll have a downloaded list of everybody that you, sorry, I don't have the right extension, Chrome extension, so I can't show you the spreadsheet. But your computer hopefully will be able to do it. I can't go into any sort of IT as part of this presentation. So that's the neighborhood map. And so what you all have at your places are some very rudimentary, hand-drawn by me boundaries around the zip code areas on the neighborhood map. So 28801 is a red boundary, 28806 is a green boundary, and so on and so forth. So that's a pictorial representation of the neighborhoods that are in the zip codes that you either represent if you are appointed to a zip code seat, or if you are an at-large member, I've given you the zip code areas that you live in. And you'll also notice that tonight you're sitting next to someone that you aren't Joe because you're the only person in 28804, and you also, Babette, are the only person in 28803, but you two are in 28801, and you're in you are 03. Well, that's why you're in the middle then. Oakley is one of those neighborhoods that's in 28805 and 28803. So we'll get you another sheet for 28803 then. And I've given you lists of all of the neighborhoods that are registered with the city in your zip code. So as you're thinking about how you want to do outreach, and especially for our folks who are at large, like right now we have 2 at-large members who live in 28801. We don't have an appointed person in that 28801 spot. So it'd be great if the two of you maybe think about coordinating how that outreach could work for you, and same for everyone else. And that's why you're sitting next to one another, just in case it's helpful to, you know, coordinate on that later tonight maybe or something. I think that was all I had to share with you. Are there any questions that I could, yeah?
This is
You're welcome.
Is there any differentiation between neighborhood associations like homeowners versus neighborhoods?
For our purposes, no.
But I mean, on the sheet, there's a mix, isn't there?
Oh, yes, yeah. We just have them listed on your sheet the way that they're listed with us.
Okay.
Yep. That might be helpful to know whether one was an HOA. Yeah, sorry, I didn't go into that level of detail.
Thanks.
Yeah. Moira?
So is there a way, let's say, in my area, if there is a neighborhood that's not registered with the city, do I then somehow get them registered? Like, how does that work?
If that's something that you're interested in doing, I mean, I hope that I was, gave you a good sense of what the benefits
Right.
to registering are. And yeah, if it's okay for folks, if they want to register with us, we would appreciate being able to contact them. So sure, yeah, that could be a form of outreach. Anything else?
I had no idea that Biltmore Forest was not in the city.
Biltmore Forest is Biltmore Forest. Yeah, they're their
In
own.
1920 something, they incorporated.
They have everything of their own.
Okay.
I know, you really learn
They're
a
a
lot looking at that map. They are a township.
They're a township.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay.
Oath of resist. Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. She was trying to tell me something. Let's
I was
go.
asking if she had the 03. I was like, when you're in 03. I'll get you that.
Let's go on to the establish a NAC 2024 goals. Let's first talk about what are the goals for this retreat? Is that you?
I'll advance the slide. I mean, however you want to.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, mistake. She reminded me that we've got to talk about the neighborhood information sharing from each member of NAC. Dane, you want to go first? Before you start, I'd like to say that when we were at the neighborhood strategic part in Shiloh, the cookout, I did not introduce you to Renee White because I was so busy, but he did ask me about Renee White and about when did they meet. So I appreciate that because he had an interest in going to their meetings.
Correct. I do know Renee White from the Democratic Party.
Okay.
She's our precinct chair or something in the precinct. And so I've also been so I know her and I do plan on attending their meetings when I can. So what else are we supposed to report? I mean, I don't really understand that.
Well, when we talk about, what would you say that your neighborhood, I know it's kind of hard. Okay, I'll start then.
Okay,
That will
sure.
give you. So I live in Shiloh. It's 2803 in Shiloh. We do have a community, we do have a monthly meeting, association meeting, once a month. We're very engaged in activities. They will be part of the Festival of Neighborhoods on Saturday. We're working now to try to maintain the residency of Shiloh. So as homeowners, instead, because we do not have any businesses in Shiloh. So everyone lives there, they have homeowners or they have houses. We don't have apartments, but we struggle every day with keeping out people that want to come in and buy up property to either do apartments, townhouses, things like that. And because we do have, the property is probably cheaper in Shiloh than some of the other areas. So I would say that, with me being community-minded, and since maybe if you talk to Renee White more, then you can see whatever. I know East End Valley, because I'm on reparations with housing, I know they're concerned right now about the taxes for people, seniors with taxes, and homes are paid for and they can't afford the taxes and why they're so high. And people didn't realize that if someone builds a house next to you, then whatever that value of that home is, that can cause your taxes to go up. Not in a, not in a established community on its own, but if it's one or two houses, that can cause that. So that's what I would say that we're looking into. Downtown would be where you were talking, where you gave me education about parking the last time, which I did not know, that it was cheaper to park Church Street and then walk up compared to paying that high cost somewhere else. So that would be something that you would talk about.
Okay. All right, well, so I've been in downtown for 15 years, and we have a very active downtown association, DARN, and Meredith just came to our annual meeting. We have one official business meeting every year, which we didn't really do a lot of business this time, but we haven't met in 3 years, so that was kind of our kickoff meeting. But we are socially very active. We have about 1,000 people living downtown, believe it or not, and we have 4 affordable housing buildings in downtown, which a lot of people don't know about. We have actually more affordable housing in downtown than any other neighborhood in Asheville. But socially, we get together at a minimum of 3 times a month, and it's just whoever wants to show up, and they're different things. And then we have regular meetings, like about every 3 months, and then we have the annual meeting, which is where hopefully we get a lot of people attend. So it's because it's downtown and we're all distributed. We're not like regular neighbors, like, we're in all different buildings scattered around downtown. Like the building I'm in is on Broadway, and we have like 5 residents in that building. And, I wouldn't even know the other people except for DARN. And so it's really good to have DARN. And DARN has been around since around 2003. I mean, it's been around a long time. So anyway, and I do look forward to getting out into some of the other neighborhoods, which I haven't done so far. In a very limited way I have, but I can be more active in some of these other neighborhoods. So that's pretty much it. As far as the concerns for downtown, they're the same current concerns that, everybody has, coming into downtown. I have a little dog. I walk him twice a day, so I see everything that's going on out there. The homeless people, the vagrants. Our building was broken into recently for the first time ever. And so crime is an issue. So all the things you read about in Asheville Watchdog are immediate concerns to us, like every day. So that's kind of where we're at.
So I believe one of the only issues that I'm aware of right now is speeding in my neighborhood. And that's,
Can you speak up, please?
yes, the only issue that I'm currently aware of in my neighborhood is speeding, and that's on Merriman. So I don't really think that's a city issue due to it being a state route. Yeah.
So how do you feel about the bike routes on Merriman?
On North Merriman, I really like them. I wish there was a direct path from downtown. Currently on the map that was approved by the city that they're going to be talking about at the next council meeting for for opinions. If I was to attempt to ride a bicycle downtown, I would have to go about a mile out of my way instead of just finding a direct route. So it's a step in the right direction, but we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I used to ride my bike up to AB Tech, and getting from Broadway to AB Tech, a lot, especially, the main streets, you really can't ride on them.
Yeah.
At least not safely. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. We need more bike routes if we're going to have any kind of chance at having alternative transportation.
Elizabeth?
I just want to comment real quickly. I think that sounds like a multimodal transportation committee overlap with neighborhood advisory
It
committee.
is.
So here's her. I am in the Oakley neighborhood, and we, in the past couple of years, have had kind of a resurgence. A lot of it was we rallied around the the Oakley Library. A lot of young families have moved in, and they walk their kids to Oakley Elementary, and they go to the library there. And so when there was some talk a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, about closing some of the libraries, especially now that the giant one in East Asheville across 70 was built. They thought that the Oakley one was sort of obsolete, and it would take a while to fix it and repair it. So our neighborhood association really rallied around that, and right now we've saved the library, and so there was a lot of people coming to meetings then. Now that that is done, in the last year we moved to quarterly meetings, and one of our biggest things is traffic calming on Fairview Road. It is very, very narrow. We've had lots of injuries. I say lots of injuries. I know of lots of people who either biking or the sidewalks are pretty narrow, so there's some pretty significant sidewalk repair work going on along Fairview Road. And then we're really excited about the Greenway that is going to be coming through on River Road. At first, we were really rallying for it to be on Thompson Street, the other side of the river from Kenilworth, because it's more calm and we could walk, but the state's going to pay for it, I understand, pay for part of it, since it's on State Road 81, which is Swananoa River Road. So that will make our neighborhood a little more walkable, as well as the sidewalks around School Road and Onteora. And as Christina pointed out, Oakley is in 28805 and 28803, so part of the I know it's the schools too, whether they're county schools, but in the city, so lots of fragmentation there. We are actually having a meeting next Tuesday of our association, and we're going to have a booth at the Festival of Neighborhoods.
All right. Sandra?
I live in the East Asheville area with active homeowners association, at least for East Ridge. Some of the things that I've noticed when I served on the board and with the current board is the issue of traffic, especially for pedestrians, for people to walk. This is something that was developed during the Obama administration, but now I don't recall seeing any grass cutting to make it easier for people. So it's outgrowing. So it's a little bit difficult for people to navigate when you have something like that and it's not being kept up to date. Another issue is coming from Turner Road and going on Riseville Road. There's a bridge that is like an underpass of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and that's a very narrow entrance. So people, some people they're walking at night, and if you're not wearing something, a contrasting color, it's very easy to knock people down. So, that's something that, we're hoping that the city will look into expanding. I don't know whether it's a state road or federal road because of the bridge, which is historic. And one that is also of issue that we've been talking about is the curve coming from still on Riseville Road. There's a church, Upper Grassy Branch. Cars just zoom in and out like that, but they're coming from a blind spot, so you really cannot see them because of the sharp curve. So there's need to trim, a lot of the trees. About 2 years ago, somebody came in and just cut a few branches, and that was the end of it. So that's one of the things that the neighborhood is dealing with. But I'm sure that, there are other issues, but right now, that's what we'd like to see happening. There are businesses opening up, but then you also have businesses closing. So in terms of economy, it's a balancing act.
Hello, I'm Elise Smarter. I reside in 28806. Just some things that I know that have been going on lately. The sidewalks on Vermont Street are finally getting replaced, and they're so nice and flat. They're not all buckled like this anymore. And I don't know, I have no idea what the timeline for the project is, but I really hope that they'll be done in time for the Halloween festival that Vermont Street has every year. So yeah, that's what's going on around me.
Hi, Moira Belange, and I also live in 28806. To add on to what Elise just mentioned, I know one of the things that people have been talking about is where that Kmart is, and then there's like that new Ingalls that's coming up, and so people are trying to figure out like the timeline for that, what that's gonna do to the other Ingalls that's like half a mile down the road, not even, on Patton and New Leicester Highway, and so people are just trying to figure out, because as you guys know, the Louisiana-Patton intersection is already not great in terms of traffic. It's hard for people to, like if you're coming off of Louisiana to turn onto Patton in either direction, and so that's kind of just trying to figure out how that's going to impact those traffic patterns, if there's an Ingalls there, and then what's going to happen to the Ingalls that's, down the road. So I'm sure it's still, I haven't even seen anything go down, but that's one of the things that, they've been talking about for a year now.
I'm Jo Taylor. I'm new to the committee, and the Beaver Dam Valley Neighborhood Association, of which I'm a member, is also new to being a neighborhood and officially recognized as such. Probably about a year and a half, and the neighborhood is huge, part in the county, part out, in the city, and they primarily came together because of building and a multi apartment condominium complex on Pinecroft. And they're still really focused on that in terms of the neighborhood and worrisome about how that will impact. One of the fun things we did earlier in the year, we had Wild Bud natives, Nathan Buchanan, come and speak to our group. We had over 50 people at the North Asheville Library, and I had already done a brochure about thinking about native plants in your own backyard as a way to help insect and bird populations. So that was a lot of fun. But most of the energy that the board has been putting forth has to be around the development issue. The other concerns in our neighborhood, and quite honestly, I've yet to reach out to these other folks, and so I'm assuming that I would do with them the way I do with our board, and that is to come up with a summary of this meeting and what was discussed, and then input, and then reach out to these neighborhood associations. Our concerns are the safety. We have no walkable areas. Once you turn from Merriman onto Beaver Dam, there are no walkable areas at all. And it's a pretty fast road, and we're thinking about dumping more cars on it with this new development. So, and also we've had significant water repairs, and they still haven't figured it all out. And we've had a lot of concerns about just real basic support services. So that's been where that energy is. They've got a booth at the Festival of Neighborhoods, and they got a grant this year. So we're off and running, but it's, it's a slow process. Everybody's a volunteer, and you know how that goes. So thanks.
What I would like to say about that is I appreciate that, because what we are, we're about neighborhoods. And for those of you that are not involved in a neighborhood association, even if you don't live right there, go to the next one that's right next to you, especially at large, and go and see how these neighborhoods, the associations are great, a way for, when you're involved with your neighborhood associations, that gives you a place with the city and the county. And it gives you a seat at the table for your concerns, because the same concerns you have are the same concerns that we have with moving in to our neighborhoods. I had a meeting earlier where Habitat wants to develop some homes and some more homes in Shiloh, but we're still concerned about how you're gonna place them, how many you're gonna put, how they're gonna be structured, and to benefit our community. So I understand that. So I encourage everybody, that's very important, because we're talking about neighborhoods and we're talking about people. And it's the people that are in the neighborhoods that really make a difference. And when you start talking to them, they can tell you what they want. And I always make sure that I go back and report back to what I've learned in this committee and their concerns, and they'll bring something back. So I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions or additions, comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
This has, it's about this First Baptist Church Asheville. Anyone familiar with Project Aspire?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something that's coming before the city council. So talking of neighborhood, this is a project that's supposed to, help with the development, provide affordable housing, as well as teaming up with,
The why?
the why, to modernize it. And I'm not speaking as a member of this because I'm a member of the church, so I know that the intention.
So what I would say to you is get with the Eastern Valley Community Association, because they're very involved in this process. They have some major concerns about things that they were told at the beginning that were gonna happen with the development has now changed some. And I would say that get with Renee White. She's the president of the East End Valley Association. Get with them, because they go to all of those meetings that they have about this project, that they're always there. And so that would be a way for you to, from what you've heard and from where you are, and you might be able to connect that. Okay?
And I have a follow-up question with that. I'm not sure, because it's right in the middle of downtown and there's not any, well, there aren't that many homes or condos that close except for East End. I mean, right in that area, but it is going to significantly change the face of downtown with all of those big trees along Oak Street. Which we talked about at length at the Multimodal Transportation Commission. They came and did and I don't know how, as a neighborhood advisory committee, if we don't have somebody, well, and I think that's the closest thing, is to talk to the people that are in East End, but is that something that downtown?
Very, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely interested in that project. And as far as I can see, it's a joint venture between First Baptist and the YMCA. It's 10 acres, and most of it right now is surface parking. And surface parking is the least valuable use of land in downtown. And the more concentrated we can get people, there might be issues with that project with the height of the buildings and things. I understand people have concerns, but getting more people downtown in an area that's walkable, that's on a bus route, that has affordable housing, it has a lot of great features in it. And right now it's primarily just parking lots, except for the Y and the First Baptist. And to turn those parking lots into affordable housing is probably one of the best uses that could be made for that property, in my opinion. So I think if they can figure out, the issues that people have, which I'm sure they will, then I think it's going to be a great addition to downtown.
Yeah, that's the intention. All right, thank you.
I know that the urban, what is the committee that Sharon was on? Urban Forestry Commission expressed a lot of concern, and I haven't seen an updated plan. I'd be curious to see if we had access to that information.
About the trees.
About the trees and the affordable housing, because the figures that they were showing back when they came to MMTC were not affordable. But if they might have made some amendments, and I would.
No, they didn't. It's still,
Yeah.
so you have to define what affordable is.
Yeah,
And that's the next thing. So with the issue of the people that live in Asheville and Buncombe County cannot even afford to buy here, I would say that in the middle of downtown, in that area, is what they consider affordable. So
Well, that's a federal standard. I mean, that's, the city doesn't have anything to do with that. It's 80% of the average income for this area, and then deeply affordable is 60%. So correct me if I'm wrong, I think those are the numbers. Yeah, the median income, right? So those are federal standards.
And I think that what East End Valley was concerned about is that when they put those affordable houses up, that they would not be affordable for the people that already live in Asheville.
Well, when they say affordable, they mean
I
affordable
know.
according to the federal
I know.
standard.
I know.
So-
But that's why I said it'd be important for you all to go to that meeting, so maybe you can give them some clarity on what you know what that is, because they may not know.
Well, they may not, but I mean, it's important, the affordable thing is important when it comes to financing projects like this. And that's what's gonna be the key to whether this actually happens or not, is gonna be, if they can get, financing, particularly federal, financing for this project. So the affordable thing is the only thing that gives it the possibility of getting federal, support for this project, so.
Any other questions or concerns?
I will say I was just made aware that this is going to be I think, Meredith, you may know this, the topic of the new hotel. First I've heard about it, and they call it in Biltmore Village, but it really is neighboring Oakley, so I'm not really sure how that impacts Oakley. There's apparently a new hotel project
Yeah, it is.
that
I
I have.
have a mention of it to come to, just to let us know that, did you get that?
It got forwarded to us, I think, through the Oakley
I've
Neighborhood
got it.
Association, but that's going to be one to watch, because I will say that a lot of the people that are in our neighborhood, there have been 22 houses just built within a stone's throw of my house since I've owned it for 4 years, and the number of water problems that are happening, the water pressure, and then the changes that have happened because of all the quick building, and then the people that have lived there, the pipes can't handle it. So yeah, all of my neighbors have had major water issues since all those new houses have been put in. So that's a concern in the general area.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? If not, we'll go on to the establish the NAC 2024 goals. Does anyone, before we start, do you have any suggestions about what our goals should be for NAC?
Well, it just seems to me that we should tie them into the 5 council goals that we should be, really all the commissions and committees should be working on those 5 things. So we talked about those last month, and I think that's, if we can derive our goals from their goals, then something might actually happen.
Okay. Go ahead, Darwin.
All right, so yes, here we are. This is the fun part of today's annual retreat, I hope. And you all will have the opportunity through some activities to hone in on what you'd like to prioritize for this committee in the coming calendar year. So that is the goal, to establish those priorities. You all have seen this slide before, but just wanted to set the stage and just have, especially since there are some new members, to be able to share what the powers and duties are as they're articulated in the bylaws. Particular to this exercise, we've highlighted just developing a plan to strengthen neighborhood identity and resilience. And you all have been doing some things in those areas over the last few years. Each year it looks a little bit different based on what the needs are and what you're hearing the needs to be. And then, of course, getting information out to neighborhoods about city's master plans is another piece of that. To look back, we thought that it would be helpful to maybe reflect on the goals that you had for this calendar year. And I don't know, Chair, if that's something that you want to give some space for the committee to talk about, or if we just want to move through those a little quickly.
We can just move through them if you have any any questions or comments or concerns, just kind of like, we'll just stop and let you go ahead and ask.
Excellent, sounds great. All right, so one of the goals was to promote and celebrate neighborhoods through an Asheville Neighborhood Festival, and to do that in conjunction with National Neighbor Day celebration. And so that is all in September 2023. And we all know that we've got an exciting, fun day ahead of us on Saturday. So just wanted to acknowledge all the great work that you all have done on addressing that goal. And we are so excited for Saturday. The second one was to support the fire department in their emergency preparedness program. We've done we've talked a number of times this year about the emergency operations plan that the fire department is leading for all city departments, and really making sure that neighborhoods are tapped into that plan, because we do know that in times of crises, neighborhoods being able to support each other, to share what their needs are in a quickly and effective way, can really help in those recovery efforts. So some things you all had mentioned that you'd like to tackle would be raising awareness, connecting communities with representatives from local emergency agencies. I'll just pause there, and have heard over this last year that those conversations have been happening as you all are out and about doing your work in neighborhoods. And then connecting representatives with local emergency agencies. There's a great opportunity to do that at the Festival of Neighborhoods. So there was a lot of intention put behind this festival, and it was you can see it was directly aligned with your goals. So providing resources to assist neighbors in developing disaster preparedness. It's another one that we'll have an opportunity to address and foster at the festival this weekend. And then connecting emergency services with a network of neighborhood contacts. And that's something, again, that we all have touched on. We have had some presentations by the fire department this year. They have access to our neighborhood list of contact information that Christina shared with you earlier today. And just want to highlight, for example, how beneficial this can be. And we'll reflect back to the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, and the water outage. And because of those contacts, there was misinformation that was floating around about what needs were in certain areas, or where the drop-off points would be for water. And we were able to reach out to that neighborhood leadership and get some on-the-ground information to better understand what was really happening, and then to dispel some of those rumors that were out there and help the response of providing water. So that's just an example of how helpful those relationships can be when we find ourselves in times of crises. It's a sensitive mouse.
Just hover in the bottom left corner, the little numbers will pop up.
Wait, can I? That's okay.
You got it.
Okay. All right, so strengthen neighborhood organizational development was another one of your goals, and then connecting rental property owners with resources and information, encouraging acceptance of housing vouchers. That was another goal. So as we roll into establishing the goal, as you all roll into establishing the goals for 2024, there may be some things that you might want to carry over, for example, as you're taking all of that into consideration. If focus ended up in another area this year and you'd like to highlight maybe 3 or 4 as something you'd like to carry over, of course, that's always an opportunity, but just wanted to honor the goals that were set last time and give you all a minute to reflect on those. I didn't do that on purpose. I must have remembered somewhere in my head that the next slide said reflections. So I think it's really important to pause and always and just reflect on the successes that you all have had this year. So we talked about a few that were directly related to your goals, and then you guys did some great work with your working groups this year, and just as staff want to acknowledge, on behalf of City Council, how valuable that is, the time and energy that went into that, and wanted to highlight for you all the work that was done with the bylaws, and then, of course, the Festival of Neighborhoods. Another thing that may be worth reflecting on as you all get into your conversations about what you'd like your priorities to be would be monthly meetings. After you all work on your goals, there is you have some action items on your agenda tonight, and that is to adopt your schedule for next year. And so as you do that, if you want to consider, there are other boards and commissions that are moving to bi-monthly meetings, and in the off months, they're doing their working group work. And so that strategy that they've employed was related to just being mindful of the time and energy that it takes to be in working groups, and just wanting to maximize the time and energy that you all contribute to your community.
So by bi-monthly, you mean every 2 months, not twice a month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a formal meeting every other month. And then on the off months would be when you all could gather in your working groups. And so that would not be that wouldn't be streamed. It's a lot less informal. And you can work with a schedule maybe that works for the folks that are in the working group, and the work can continue. And it's really what's best for each board and commission. The choice is what is, each board and commission finds a different path. So I just wanted to frame it in that way. It's really what works best for you all, if you want to stick with monthly meetings, or if you wanted to meet every other month formally and then do working group work on the off months. You all will be voting on that, yes, ma'am, at the end of today's meeting and retreat.
Okay.
All right, so we have 2 activities tonight to help you all in the development of your 2024 goals. We've talked about the organizational work plan areas of interest, and I do just want to mention that at this point in time, we should look at those as draft items that are over here on the wall, and that were presented to you all in the last meeting. They will go to City Council for any input on October 5th. So they do still have that stop. So there might be some adjustments, or there might be more information that comes to light, but wanted to use this opportunity with the annual retreat to get some ideas about areas where you all think neighborhoods will want more information, and or if there's going to be engagement around any of these work plan items, areas where, or projects or items where you would like to see NAC involved in that engagement. So that might look like, depending on the schedule of those projects, they're all in varying stages, but this will help us in determining what some upcoming agenda items could be and planning to have staff come to you. So if there was an engagement that was happening around a project and it's not too far down the road right now at this point in time, we could schedule to have a presentation given to you all, and then that would be an opportunity for NAC to provide input to that project manager to be included in the final decision-making about the recommendations or project components. So that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity there. These things could maybe change a little bit after they're presented to council, and we'll be able to roll into that with ideas about what you all are most interested in. So that's the first activity. And then the second activity will be, maybe there are other things, like Volunteer of the Year is a good example, right? That aren't necessarily a project that staff is working on, but something that the committee thinks is important to continue doing. And we thought we would handle that by having you all, you've got some paper in front of you. Okay, this is the paper. So we'll pass this out while you guys are over here working on the proposed work plan items. But you'll be writing down any other ideas you have, and then you can just pass them down to us. We'll be collecting them so then you guys can see them all up on the screen, and then have your conversation about what you want your goals to be. So you'll have the input from both of those activities. So for activity 1, you guys get to get up and move around a little bit, and we apologize for our folks that may be watching through the stream. This part of the meeting might be harder to decipher, but certainly the notes from this will be made available in the minutes of this meeting to follow along. So you guys have 4 dots in front of you, and then you can see those priority areas, council's priority areas at the top of the list over there, and then some projects that are identified or laid out underneath them. And those are those, the draft concepts that staff is working with right now. And so you can just put your dot with the ones that you think you and or your community might be most interested in. Doug, we should have music or something. Here you go, Elise. This is a multi-talented community.
What's the citywide maintenance review?
I'm glad that you asked that question, because this is an opportunity that we have with this exercise. Right, so if it sounds like something that's interesting to you, you could just put a dot, and then we can make sure that you get a presentation about it. I think that one is looking at the maintenance of our facilities. Right, maintenance, city of facilities. Maintenance means that there are a lot.
There's a duplicate of this one that starts with McCormick Seal. Are we missing one, or is that just a duplicate?
Oh, it's a duplicate. It's a duplicate. Yes, because it didn't have the file, which is, you can take
So yeah, you were with us.
that was fine. Thank you.
I was just like, wait, why is it wrong? I was starting to get
So that's part of our annual sidewalk program. So maybe an important thing to know here, this isn't everything the city's doing.
Greenway accessibility. So that would be a sidewalk.
Yeah, and the ADA implementation as part of that too, if I understand correctly.
There too.
We're doing really good on time, believe it or not. Really good.
In a disparity study, what is that?
So actually, the disparity study is about how the city does business with minority-owned businesses. So that engagement happened last week. And so the results of that will be reported.
Oh, yeah. No, don't do anything. Leave it like it is.
Yeah, it's about how minority businesses.
I mean, there's nothing else to talk about. I do work, like, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. You know where the Advanced Auto Parts and the Shell station is? Right before Llewellyn's? Right before the Woozley did. Yeah, more west. So essentially like, you know where Rose is?
Oh, yeah.
Southwest
I
Fire
know,
Road?
my daughter.
Right behind it, basically. So, yeah.
A lot of recommendations in there have to
We are
do,
in
some of them
the
have to do with a broader perspective of how the whole system works together, as well as communication about averages.
But you're on,
So,
west
it's
side.
like Kimberly style.
Yes,
if there's an
Or no, no,
interest in water,
you're on, I know which one.
Okay.
yeah, so,
And then we can make sure that we keep the community
So
updated.
you're kind of like
how
a
the
Spears
information-
and Henrietta.
yeah, it's like 5 points, Henrietta Spears.
Yeah.
that facility, yeah, maintaining
Yeah, there's-
facilities, the city buildings, maintenance, like the roofing needs replaced, or if they're.
Is that different from the comprehensive facilities assessment?
But yeah, there's,
So there's
we're
maintenance,
almost across the street from all the
it's
apartments
just
over here.
ongoing pieces that they.
There's
The simple answer, yes, the simple answer is yes.
So there's, people in 16, Jerry, who's my neighbor, who lives in 19.
Okay, sure, so that is a program that where there are city
Then,
ones that are invested
there's us.
different goals.
So, I guess about 20 years ago, the three people that lived on that street got paid to the city to get the street paid.
That are underpaid out, they bring them
I guess so. I'm not sure, but the professor who was on the hill, he grew up there.
Policy, okay,
In his
so
house, and
those
now
are
lives in Austin half the
so
year.
the housing trust fund.
But he's a professor, or retired professor in industrial engineering in Texas State.
Right, those are incentives that
This
you
year,
give to
this was
developers
the
for
vision.
including things like affordable housing.
Or like.
This borders the neighborhood. Well, that's true. And they are feeling a lot of impact from like downtown sort of like expanding beyond its own neighborhood, and they've been delaying the.
So Anne, across the street, 16, she actually has two lots.
Well, you guys get to talk about it, this is
And
your,
she,
this is your
She
activity.
built a
Yeah,
new one last
yeah.
year, or on her second one last year, and
That is the bus station,
called the
yep,
electrician.
our place is the
And
bus
then rezoned her
station.
property, her second lot, because it wasn't residential.
I'm having fun my neighborhood
So-
hat, and like, 'cause I'm like, I care about this.
Jerry's house is probably.
It's interesting, we all grew together.
I feel on.
About 30 years old.
That's hard to do.
But he's a great neighbor,
So with the, since we're trying to align.
but I guess he's also been renting the house for 27 years. So, and you guys are a really good deal on it. But yeah, it's a really interesting, place.
Well, we're all kind of
We had a-
concerned about the same things, aren't we?
Our neighborhood bear that comes out, he was out this morning. One of my security cameras. So that's facing west.
I would definitely say like volunteer here, anything that's building cohesion between people is building neighborhoods.
Yeah, end of the season, they tend to be nice and fun, plus he knows it's garbage day tomorrow.
Except for, even except for Asheville, this one is the one we're doing, this is.
But yeah, there's,
Our apartments project with,
like,
community space.
that side of my house, the west side of my house is kind of annoying because like, there's an Airbnb that uses an easement, which I also have questions about because I don't know about commercial use for an easement if they consider easements to be, or Airbnbs to be commercial use.
Yeah, I would POD at asheville.gov.
Okay,
At the
yeah,
end of the day, they'll be able to.
Yeah. But, a lot of the times they'll, bring their garbage over and try and throw it in my trash can. And then also there's
It's like everybody, and that's just like.
take care of their business, yeah. And so I put up a sign, I had to email my neighbor first and tell her it wasn't directed to her. She was
My brother didn't even see you get up.
Oh, yeah, I got up and got down.
She was like, I know exactly what I need to do.
I did, I got up, yeah, I got up, put mine down and.
59-13, if anybody sets foot after reading the sign, they charge you with criminal prosecution. Which I'm not gonna do, but. Yeah.
Did anyone write down any additional, she passed the sheets out? If you had anything that you wanted to add to that?
Anything that wasn't.
so yes, if you all are inspired by any additional things, Festival of Neighborhoods could be a good example. They are council's priorities, and if you want to jot those down, you can fold them and then just pass them down this way, and we'll make sure that we add that. We also discussed that. Oh, this might have been the one. Yeah, it looks like. Reparations was that, I think that was our duplicate, Moira.
That's what it was, okay.
That was our duplicate. So I'm just going to leave that one up as we have this conversation in case there's a goal around that you all want to discuss. Just need to get rid of all this tape. All right, so it's looking like no. Why don't we do this?
Did you need this one?
I think probably the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, pass, you can pass me down, pass when you're done. Down the screen.
Oh, so,
I was passing it as a secret note.
Huh?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Passing it as a checklist.
All right, so before I leave this slide, is there anything on here that you all want to make sure we carry over as you have your discussion about the priorities for next year? And I will say, we've got a commission that is focusing their work on it, but if, for example, something about city-owned land was interesting to you all, we can make sure we leave that on this list for you to consider in the development of your goals. All right, and what I'm going to do. Ooh, yeah, you guys can help if it. And I thought we.
Does everyone know what the reparations, what that is entailed? It's up on the board right there. Does everyone in here know what that is about?
Yep.
Do you have any comments or any suggestions before we move on to that could possibly be part of that for next year or something?
I did have a question. I know you said that there's a commission that's dedicated. Is there like a timeline for those, finalizing those recommendations by that commission that's dedicated specifically?
They're actually having a presentation at UNCA sometime in October. It was just announced today.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's
Yes.
gonna be on a Saturday from 10 to 3. If you wanna go, it's gonna be at the, is it the Cheryl?
Cheryl Center.
It is, and unfortunately, the seated portion of that event has sold out. And there will be, no, it wasn't announced today. It's been out for a while. Yeah. Of the Reparations Summit, October 7th. Yep, Saturday, October 7th. But there will be a report out. There's going to be a video. The city and county are working together to produce that after the event so that everybody can keep up with what happens there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew it was like the
There's
originally
so
wasn't
much going
around at this
on.
time, so I wasn't sure exactly.
Okay. Let's see if we can do it this way. I'm going the highest number to the lowest number of dots. And I'm going to try that with each focus area. So this is missing middle housing study. And all right, so it sounds like we can. This one's coming off. All right, the next is public safety.
Are you removing the ones that we didn't select?
Yes, I'm only putting ones on here that had a dot by them. I think that one, I think that might be a good place for you to start, but if there's something else that we want to explore, you all definitely, please know that that is okay too. And for adaptation.
Did we get everybody's ideas that you wrote down?
I think so. I passed mine down. I don't know if I.
Okay, so this is the part where you guys get to kind of see what the highest ranking ones were. And so the top three were the missing middle housing study, for example, downtown safety, and then the GAP plan and ADA implementation.
Is this all of them?
This isn't all, more of them are coming, but these were the other ones have only 1 or 2 dots beside them. So that's what, are they after this one? Fabulous, great. And so there. What do we do before the days of Google? I wonder, it could be,
If there's overs in each to 4 dots, there should be 32.
Maybe when it's in slideshow mode, it
Yeah.
won't like do
I bet
that.
that's it.
Okay.
There we go.
Yep.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, so here's the rest of them.
Oh, there, okay.
Improve access to downtown restrooms. Is there like a public restroom?
There are none currently open.
Huh?
There are none currently open in downtown. There were 2, but during COVID, they both got shut down.
The city's currently seeking input to build a public restroom using ARPA funds at
Walnut,
Rankin and College.
Walnut and Rankin.
Walnut.
So the 4 stalls
Oh,
at the
wait.
new $18 million
Yeah, Walnut.
thing up there are closed?
Most of the time, they're closed. They might open them occasionally, but most of the time, they're closed.
Yeah, it's really needed, especially when you have homeless people downtown.
I know,
And
I'm
some of them,
I'm surprised it only got 1 vote because, you have all these homeless people downtown, and where do they go to the restroom? I
they
mean,
just help themselves right there in the street, I've seen it.
I know, believe me, I see it all the time. And the businesses don't want them coming into their businesses to use the restroom.
Maybe we need more stickers. Oh, wow, that's, have you been to Hendersonville Road? I mean, Andersonville. Anyone
Hendersonville.
familiar with Hendersonville? They have, I just happened to be there and, looking for maybe McDonald's or something. And I just look up and there's this beautiful restroom that they have there. It's really nice. I was surprised. It's like what you will find at rest stops, but it's right downtown, right in the heart of downtown. So maybe something like that can be. I don't remember.
Well, the only one that's open, like, on a regular basis is the library, and that's just, like, during library hours, so.
And not just for the homeless, but like.
Well, no, for the
people,
tourists too, I mean,
for-
it's like,
Yeah, because some stores you cannot just walk in and use their restroom. They
oh,
will
yeah,
let you know.
they have signs,
You have to.
no
Wow.
public restrooms, all over.
So rather than building a new one, there were at least 4 stalls in the new one up the hill. Is it this way?
The problem is staffing, so the one that they're talking about building on Rankin Street is gonna be like totally automated. So, and you see those in other cities, around the world, where people can just go in and use the restroom. They're self-cleaning, they don't require somebody to like clean them. And that's basically the problem with the other restrooms is, especially during COVID, they didn't have the people to clean them and to make sure that they were maintained properly, and people were abusing them and doing all kinds of dumb stuff. So the new one is designed to take care of those problems.
It's like I looked into the designs, I was curious about it. It's like a prefabricated thing called Portland Loo.
Right, exactly.
I guess they make them in Portland, and the idea is cities all across the nation might use them, but they make them specially designed to have tilted baffles, they call them, so that police can look under and make sure nothing nefarious is going on, but still providing privacy from whatever angles. The material that they're made out of is graffiti resistant. I guess easy to clean the graffiti off, and they have the hand washing station is outside of the toilet part so that you decrease the chance that people are trying to bathe or something. You know, it's like strictly for hand washing. They put it in highly visible locations to decrease the chances of prostitution or drug use happening in them.
So a thing to consider, so if those types of engagements are things that are catching your attention as we're getting back to developing what the goals are, it could be, and maybe something for you all to explore, is if you want to highlight passing along information about engagement opportunities. And so then we could highlight, it sounds like there was some good conversation around some conversation around that downtown restroom, for example. And so that could fit nicely in that, just trying to frame where your momentum is into a goal.
I will say I am interested in the implementation of those bathrooms, but I did not put a dot under that because I don't think that's like a broad enough neighborhood type thing, but I certainly support connecting the neighborhoods to these engagement opportunities. I know I filled out the survey for the bathroom thing, and I don't know when that closes, if there's still an opportunity.
Right, so yeah, perfect. Thank you for that, Elise. So it wouldn't be just the bathrooms, right? But if something that you all really want to focus your attention on is being aware of what all the different engagements are and sharing that with neighborhoods, that would be that higher level, not as focused of a goal. So certainly not that this was a vote, a dot exercise, it's just the beginning of a conversation for you all to kind of see where the momentum was, and then you've got that opportunity to decide what that looks like in goal form for you all and where you want to spend.
Well, that one could
your
actually
attention.
be underneath the downtown safety one that got 5 votes. I mean, because that's really kind of part of the whole downtown issues that we're dealing with right now.
Can I get some help? Like, it seems pretty obvious where we're concerned. I mean, there are not many up there. We all kind of gravitated to the same ones. And 2 that stand out for me are the sidewalks and the water core services. So how do we get from our interest there to a goal, to an actionable item? And what kind of, you know, when we communicate our goals, then do we gather data about our neighborhoods? How does the city gather their data about sidewalks and water core services? You know, do we want to be part of that? Do we want to canvass? I mean, I'm not sure how to get interest to goals to actionable items.
So just thinking about what the, here, let's go back to this slide. So you have an idea of some things that you're interested in, and then these are NACs, this is powers and duties, right? And a lot of that has to do with communicating things to neighborhoods, getting information from neighborhoods, bringing it back. And then you've got the ones around that are really capacity building. So getting out into neighborhoods and making sure they have resources like how to establish a neighborhood association, connecting neighborhoods. This neighborhood did a great job in establishing theirs. Maybe they want to be almost in a mentoring kind of relationship with a newer neighborhood, and you all are making those connections. So the exercises, here are some things that are happening. Where's NAC most interested? And then how might that fit into your goals and duties? That being sharing of information, connecting people to engagement opportunities for decisions that can be made on down the road. Does that make sense? So this is really your conversation. Like what do you, knowing this is your charge, what do you all, there's a lot of things you could focus your attention on, but where do you want to focus your attention for this next year? What kinds of things? what topic areas do you envision will be really important to your neighborhoods? And then there can be extra attention put to that. And then let's not forget, you've got your other ideas, the Festival of Neighborhoods, the Volunteer of the Year. Are you still interested in the number 4 and you want to roll that over to next year?
I wondered about, one of the things that got one of the highest votes a lot of people are interested in was under housing stability and yet, and the middle missing housing study, and then the other one, what was the one? Maybe that was just the one I was thinking of. But there's not much, I honestly am really open to hearing how we as a neighborhood advisory committee can be involved in that in our neighborhoods, because a lot of it, I wonder if that's where that other goal came from. It was a way for this committee to plug in on a neighborhood level versus, we're not going to go out and help develop affordable housing somewhere, but the housing voucher, I was trying to connect the dots. Why was that on there for last year? But that may be a link. I don't know if anybody else has ideas about that, but it's sort of along the lines of what you said, Joe. How do we take, well, these are general interests in Asheville versus this is what the Neighborhood Advisory Committee can do and make an impact on.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
connected there,
Yeah.
so.
Right, and so that's back to, I would say, your powers and duties, and that's making connections with things that are happening. So that's this part of the exercise, right? These are things that are going to be shared with council on October 5th, projects that have been identified that align with city council goals. And a lot of them have opportunities for input, which that's the connection for the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, right? Bringing more people to the table to provide their input, encouraging that so better decisions can be, more inclusive decisions can be made on down the road.
I did have a question, I guess, more generically, if, what kind of limitations there are in the communications we can have. And I talked very briefly to Meredith about this at the event at the Shallow Community Garden, because obviously we have, I guess, different limitations on us than you guys do, because you're technically city staff. And so what kind of limitations, in terms of getting the word out there? Because for me, my hesitation in outreach is really more, I don't know what is, subject to approval by the city. If I'm going to use something like, the city of Asheville is wanting this or has this as a goal, and I am on the neighborhood advisory committee, and these are the types of things that we're working on. But what's subject to approval, what needs to be seen before it goes out to the public, or what can I just, post on a subreddit about Asheville and say, hey, if you guys are interested in this, this is going on at this date at this time. And so that's kind of, I think, where the gray area is for me, when it comes to actually getting the word out there. Like what am I governed by? Like, is it just a free-for-all? Because obviously I would want the information to be accurate too, so.
Right. Well, I would say any of these projects will have a place where you can send people. And so it's just kind of picking between all of the things that we're doing. What do we want to make sure that what the engagement schedule looks like, how to get people to the engagement that has been set up around that project, what committees, subcommittees are those projects going to, when are they going to be coming to council, so that people can enter into the process. Certainly not, the intention is not to create a separate process outside, because we want to make sure that there's a record of all of that input and that it can be captured so that there can be transparency in that decision-making process.
Sure.
Does that help?
It does. I mean, it's, I guess a simple thing would be like if I wanted to make a Facebook post, for instance, of our meeting today and say, hey, as my friends only know about this advisory committee because I'm on it, and they did not know or hear about anything about it before I was on it. I certainly, until I started doing research, hadn't heard of it. So, what constraints do I have in terms of if I just made a post on Facebook and say, hey, here's a link to the stream? Like, is that okay, or does that have to be cleared?
Right. So that, and I want, those are all good questions, and the city clerk's office is the one that has oversight of all of the approaches that are appropriate for board and commission members to take, and so maybe having them come, and that doesn't need to be part of your, priorities for next year, but maybe it would be good, especially since we have some new visitors, to just make sure that everybody's clear about what the guidelines are for what's appropriate or not. When you're speaking on behalf of the board, when you're speaking as an individual, everybody has the right to be an individual and have your individual opinion. Absolutely. And then just being mindful of if you are speaking on in an official role as a committee member or in your personal role. Sounds like maybe that could be helpful.
Kim Roney has her hand up to speak, so she's our liaison, so come on.
I think I hear a couple things. One is, what is okay to share about your role in volunteer service with the city? And thank you for that service. When I first joined boards and commissions, I had a similar question. It's, you want to be able to do outreach, and it's a goal of this group, outreach and inreach. So it sounds a little bit like there's some curiosity as we have some new folks around the table about what you can share. And I was just wondering, is it possible that there could be like a recirculation of like the code of ethics or standards?
Yes, that's
for
what-
our boards and commissions in general, and that has some like basic information on like when you're speaking as a group, like to the press, or when you're speaking as a person in this role. Does that sound like, am I lining that up?
Yes, I think that's exactly, and we can have the city clerk's office, they've put together a lot of materials in that area, but, sometimes it's just nicer to have a human being sharing that with you
Right.
than reading it in a pamphlet or,
But there's a
binder.
second thing that could actually be a goal, is more inreach and outreach from your role as a neighborhood advisory committee member. So right now I was trying to follow the meeting on my way here, and it was a little bit hard because I was on transit, but I see that there's a couple of plans that the city has. The GAP plan and the transit master plan and the independent review of the water outage are examples. There's also the urban forestry master plan. We're going to have recommendations from a reparations commission. It might be a useful tool to have a section about inreach and outreach and a list of the city's current plans. And anytime there is a link, because y'all do such a great job making sure there's surveys and outreach, and these are awesome volunteers to help with that, is it possible to have like a link on the agenda to the city's page that has all the surveys? So it's all in one place, and you don't have to go searching for it as a commission member every time there's a survey. There's probably a way to streamline that, would be my suggestion. Another one is that this is not a full list of all of the city's plans that are currently being implemented. If, for example, you took the Climate Justice Initiative and had the climate resilience scoring by neighborhood that you're in, when things come up, you'd be able to like kind of speak specifically to those issues. Are you going to have stormwater mitigation issues? What's the city's current plan? Is there a resilience hub? Who's the outreach person? If that's a vision for mapping out resources for your neighborhoods and how you can do more effective inreach and outreach in your role, then that's something that we could be asked to provide. It's something that's already available to a lot of the council members, but if that's something that's like a missing link for emergency response or something like that would be one example. What I'm hearing is like, when am I allowed to reach out?
Right. Well, and also I think for me, there's a gray area in which, when is it clear that I'm speaking as myself versus speaking for or like as a representative of the neighborhood advisory committee?
So let's say that there's, like, I think of fiscal year 4 of the transit master plan for the city currently says that we're going to expand to Inca Candler. We still haven't gotten fiscal year 2 done, but let's say that it's time to do that. And it's like, okay, I've got folks that I know live in farther West Asheville that would benefit from that, but do they know it's about to happen and how to engage? So that if you're at a neighborhood meeting or a community event or a concert and you're like, so this thing is coming up and I serve on the city's neighborhood advisory committee, you can come to our meetings and make public comment. Things like that are probably something where you could look for that resource tool from the city and feel empowered to do that outreach, because we need you to do that. Hopefully I added some clarity around that. I just remember when I was first on boards and commissions, I was like, is anybody allowed to know? And we actually need you, and we need folks to know that you're a liaison and bringing stuff back to the city, so hopefully we can recirculate that and add some clarity.
Great, thank you.
Yes, very.
It seems to me, as far as goals are concerned, our primary goal as a neighborhood advisory committee is to do this outreach, to do communication, to let people know, because people a lot of times don't know what's going on with the city with these various projects. And so I think that's really our number one goal, is to communicate, to our groups out there that we interact with every day, like what's going on, what's happening with this particular project. So we need to stay informed and then let people know this is where you can, you don't have to tell them what's going on. You can point them, because the city has a great website. It has all this stuff. Every project has its own site, right?
It's a space where you can
So you don't
add
have
input.
to, you don't have to tell them what's going on. You can just point them to, say, the city is active in this particular area, and go look it up. And now you're entitled to your own opinions, of course, and you certainly can express those. But when you're expressing your own opinions, unless this commission or committee actually votes on something, you can't say that the committee supports this. All you can say is that the city is working on this and the committee has discussed it, unless we actually, as a group, say, we support this, and that probably doesn't happen very often. Then all you really could do is say your own opinion. But I think really, as far as our goal is concerned, our number one goal is communication. And our number two goal is soliciting input from people, because that is something that, we struggle with, is, even like these meetings. How many people show up to these meetings? They're public meetings. How many people are watching on YouTube? Probably not very many. It would be my
Sometimes
guess.
it's more than you would
Sometimes
expect.
could be more, could be more.
You'd be surprised.
But anyway, I think those are our two main goals, and we obviously have some things we're more interested than other things, and I think those would be things we can have either a work group, or we can have them, people that are working on those projects come in and talk to us and say, this is, what's happening. And that way we're informed and we'll be better able to communicate with what's going on. Because to me, the problem with, I was on the downtown commission for 8 years, and everything we talked about was downtown. To me, being on the neighborhood advisory committee, I'm struggling with it, because we need topics that cover like all the neighborhoods, not just a particular neighborhood, because every neighborhood has its own concerns.
That makes a lot of sense. It seems to me that underneath those 1 and 2 goals, if we were able to pick the 3 top, the ones that we have the most interest in, would it be feasible then to go to the every other month meeting, and then the ones that we don't have a formal meeting as this group, then different people could focus on one of the 3, and then go their channels, their meetings, their work groups that are happening at the city level. And I'm not quite sure, because I'm new, I don't know how to interface with all of that, but there do seem to be avenues through which, for those 3 topics, or however many we choose, that we could focus specifically. And what I was thinking is, then we would have not only the overall, but the very specific. Well, this was the report from this group, and these are the 3 areas that we're particularly most interested in, and to get feedback and input from our local neighborhoods.
I like that idea.
So I think what I hear, and I'm checking in, is that there's some interest in one of the goals being around organizing how NAC shares information. I'm trying to take it up really high so you all have some wiggle room to figure out in this coming year what that looks like for you. But we know that that's our roadmap, right? That the A focus would be organizing how NAC shares information with neighborhoods. That sound good?
Yep.
All right, so now the question is,
Boy, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here still trying to process, because to me, that is not a goal, it's such a large, broad intention. Are we talking about something we're gonna be able to go out and do? Or,
I think it's more how you're going to do it, because I think what I'm hearing is that there are so many things out there that can be engaged upon, right? How is NAC going to determine what you're actively going into neighborhoods and sharing information about when there's, I'm 60 projects, I don't know, I'm
Yeah,
making
I mean, we're
that
not gonna
up.
just send an email every other week.
Ev-
It's like, here's some surveys you can take.
Right, like how do you all want to work together to really intentionally share information so it doesn't feel so scattershot? Because we can do that all, I mean, we can push information to you guys all day long. Like there's a lot of engagement that the city's asking for, and it can be overwhelming. And then you all might have some insight about that you could share with staff as we continue our work. Does that make sense?
well, I guess I'm waiting for it to funnel down to actually more focused, more specific, rather than so broad. And so I guess, is that our goal, or is that that's not measurable?
I think the goal is determining what that looks like so it could be,
Okay.
right? That's where you're spending, so if you want to think about where are you spending your energy, that being your goal. If you are thinking about what the intended outcome is going to be, it would be a connected and engaged community, right? Or it might be something like, there is a predictable path for how NAC shares information with neighborhoods about engagement opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we have enough time to hammer all that out today, but that can be that working, if that's your goal, that will be some of the work that you're doing. Does that make sense?
And also, we have to be, consider the fact that we don't want to pick something that relates to what other agency may be doing, other committee may be doing. So if we're talking about the missing housing study, is this something specifically uniquely to NAC, or is something that housing committee is doing? So we don't want duplication of efforts.
Right, and I think it's back to that role, like the anchor for us is what does this board and commission, like what are your primary responsibilities, and is that information sharing? So that exercise, I think, brought to light that there's some engagement activities that the committee is very interested in. And so instead of owning those engagement activities or having to do the deep dive about recommendations for it, the opportunity is to share information that input opportunities exist. So you're not creating something separate, you're just getting people into something that maybe another commission, another council subcommittee is already working in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every one of these projects already has a group or a consultant or somebody is already working on it. So we're not gonna be doing like middle housing, that's not gonna be our job. Our job would be to figure out, where is the city going with this, and what information is available and what feedback is needed, and then communicate that to people. I think that's we're basically liaisons is what we are. We're not gonna be doing any of these projects, but we can communicate with people that we know about what's happening in the city. And that's a big missing link right now, is a lot of times you ask your average Ashevillean any one of these projects and they don't know what's happening, I would bet you.
But I think that we're getting off, because we're almost, the
yeah.
time is getting away. But I think that what we have to realize is that this committee only makes recommendations. And if these are our goals, they would go, and if we would take our goals to city council, that would be what they would look at that. So we're not taking over what any other group would be doing. It's just that we're making recommendations of what we think that's important. So say like volunteer of the year, that's a goal that we want to work on. How we're going to do that is a different thing. And when you want to do it. but that's a goal that you have for 2024. Working on the increased engagement within Asheville residents, that's a goal. That's not something that we're gonna actually just say that we're putting in place that this is gonna be mandated that we do. It's just a goal that we're gonna look into. I would say that it's different for me because I was raised in Asheville. I know the communities. I would tell anybody I'm a community activist. So I know neighborhoods. When you talk about Beaver Dam and what you're going through, I know that's a concern. I know how enriched Oakley is and how far you've come with what you've done because I'm connected with those neighborhoods. And so what we're trying to say is if we want to engage and communicate and talk to neighborhoods, we need to go to what's established. You go to their meetings. Because if you go to an association meeting, they are established and they have concerns and they have topics that they talk about that would be something that we could come back and just make recommendations that this is what our neighbors are saying to the city. But it's that, well, I think we're getting too off course and it's going too far left of what we're just making goals that we want to look at for next year that are important. So all these other things that we're not going to take on. We're not going to take on the missing housing, we're not going to take on that kind of thing. Traffic calming, that's in every neighborhood. That's in every neighborhood. It's not just one, it's in every neighborhood. And so every neighborhood has that same concern. But if you have a neighborhood association, they know where to go to talk about traffic calming and speeding. So that's what I encourage you, that's why I have always said, even if you're at large, you need to go out to these neighborhoods where they are established. Once you see how they operate and what they do, you will see that they're working. CAN is a really good source. They do a lot of movement through the city. And if you look at this that I passed out, some people didn't even know we had an emergency response time if there's a disaster. Well, CAN worked with some of our neighborhoods with Shiloh, and we came up with what we already found out, some things that they didn't know and we didn't know. So that's a part of what you do is communicating around the board with everyone else. So let's just if it's a goal, let's just don't keep going around and around and around. And just if there's 2 or 3 major goals that we will know that we want to talk about, and we can do that, and you can still bring that back around next month.
Absolutely, yeah, we can take these ideas, and I think, so it's sounding to me like increasing engagement with Asheville residents is one that we're interested in, and then we've got some work on our end, like what we bring to you, we know the things that are most important, and we can make sure you guys are plugged in. So that leaves us with what our other goals, what you want your other goals to be. There, I see up there, there's Festival of Neighborhoods, there's Volunteer of the Year. Are those things that you, as a commission or a committee, want to pursue again next year?
I think the Festival of Neighborhoods has been a lot of work and a lot of fun so far, but we still don't know how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, I don't see how we can have an opinion on that until we actually
Evaluate it.
Ask us next week.
Yeah.
Total failure.
But you know what, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
I would not say, if you put Festival of Neighborhoods up, it would not be dependent on how this year would go, because the vision would be every year that it grows bigger and better, every year. And whatever we did, we might have missed this time, because the working group did an excellent job for the time that they had to do it. So it's gonna be all right, it's gonna work, but let's not say we're not gonna do it next year, because we don't know if this is gonna fit. Yes, Ms. Liaison?
The screen went away, but one of the things that I saw that you had up here was infrastructure costs. And one of the things that we're getting ready to talk about as a council is the 2024 bond package and facilities assessment. Those facilities are going to be in our neighborhoods, and there's going to be a cost involved. So when I saw that, it made me wonder, are you asking that you would be able to have a presentation on a future agenda where you provide input on the bond package? Because that would be measurable and actionable. Another thing I saw was reaching out to neighborhoods that are often overlooked. And that made me wonder if there's a way to have a more measurable outreach effort to say, does everybody know how to get traffic calming signatures done officially through the city's website and process? If not, this group may want to hear that presentation because the public that's watching could benefit, and you could share that conversation with your neighborhoods. If it's something like, do you know how to look at the survey process and get the established data from the back end from the city's website? You can do that as a member of the public. And if you don't know how to do it yet, we probably could do a training session so then you can take that back to your neighborhood. So I imagine there's probably some infrastructure pieces that would make these items more actionable. But the bonds thing is going to be huge. And as a member of our Equity and Engagement Committee for the council, I would love to hear the Neighborhood Advisory Committee's input on our bond package. So that's kind of a big one that maybe could be an action item that goes with your check.
Yes, absolutely. So, right, if that's the overarching goal,
Yeah.
we'll continue to use these dots to make sure we understand what we need to get in front of the committee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that sounds good. So, I mean, that sounds pretty solid. It sounds to me like you all are solid on that increasing engagement. And then there will be more work, right? That will be measurable. We want our SMART goals. We've all probably done this a million times. But at least we'll have a roadmap of the things we're going to focus on. Sounds like Festival of Neighborhoods is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think this year, like, it's been great for training us on how to
Yeah.
prepare for the festival, and next year we'll definitely be able to do it better.
And it seems like several of those were connected, those little, that they all could be under one broad goal with, that's the what, and then several possible hows.
Exactly,
That's-
Elizabeth. That is it exactly. Like, how do we raise up these ideas that you've had to an overarching goal? And then we can do the work. We don't have to do all that tonight, because we do need to elect officers tonight, and you all need to decide what you want your schedule to look like in the next 5 minutes.
So, are we ready to move on?
So those, I've got 2 goals that I captured. Was Volunteer of the Year a third goal? Anything else? You want me to read those goals again? Festival of Neighborhoods, increasing engagement, and then Volunteer of the Year.
Right, we awarded Volunteer of the Year in 2022, or was it very early this year? I can't remember if we did it this calendar year.
It was in
Yes, sir.
November.
November of 2022?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So is that something that we want to, that you all want to continue to do? Okay. Well, then I think maybe you have your 3 overarching goals, and we have some insight into what's most important within the engagement one, which is great. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And you all are aligned with council's priorities. Good job, everybody.
Okay, so we'll end up with the election of officers. We have a nomination for president, chair, excuse me.
Did you resolve the meeting schedule? It's gonna be every other, the meeting schedule?
Oh, you talking about whether we were gonna do it every month or every other month?
Yeah.
Do we want to vote on that now?
Oh, that's one of the things you need to vote on, yes, before we leave
I need a
tonight.
motion that if we were gonna go from meeting once a month to every other month, and with the working groups meeting on that off month, I need a motion for that.
So I'll move that we switch to an every other month meeting schedule for the full group, and we divide up into subcommittees for the top, say, 5 topics that we identified as high interest tonight, and assign members to those subcommittees that would meet in between months to investigate what the city is doing and what communication opportunities there are.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any questions?
Well, one of the, am I too late for discussion?
I said question.
Thank you. So one of the subcommittees would be the festival group, right? So
Sure.
it would be other subgroups as well.
And we can decide what the subcommittees are gonna be next month.
And I'm assuming that's going to be like not set in stone, because obviously, I think as the year goes on, we probably could either, subcommittee could wrap up whatever they're working on, like, for instance, Festival of
Exactly.
Neighborhoods has an end date. So my only concern, I will say, is, for instance, for the Festival of Neighborhoods, we would not have been able to pull it off if we only met every other month. So,
But you would be the working group.
yeah.
You would be a working
Well-
group. So
Right.
that off month that you wouldn't be working, you would have your working group to do that.
No, I understand that. I just mean that if it was in every other month working group meeting, I guess it would be separate on top of that, I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah, you
Okay.
could
Yeah, I
have,
think that would just be a.
I just wanted to clarify that. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I wanted a
Yeah, you could
clarification
have
on. So you would
additional
meet
meetings.
outside in addition to the off-month casual
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
I don't think it's required to have one working group meeting every month. We
Right.
could have 6 of them if we
Right.
wanted.
That's up to you.
We're more just leaving ourselves a month off of our regular meeting to have the
Right.
additional meeting.
Okay, so can we go on to the I have a nomination.
well, we have to.
But we didn't
first.
vote
We have
yet.
to vote first.
Oh, see, y'all got me all confused. I must be excited it's time to go home. That's what's the problem, right now. It's getting late, my time clock goes out. So
Yeah.
now, we've got the motion, we've got the second, we've got the questions answered. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is carried, so that's when you meet, every other month. Now, can we go on? Oh,
Well, I nominate Bobette to be chair,
You
of course.
can.
I
Oh,
can.
yes, you can.
Yes, I
I
can.
second that.
Oh, gosh,
Why
Quick,
can't I?
let's vote on
You
it.
can, you can.
Is there coffee somewhere?
Pass out. Any other nominations?
We need somebody to nominate a vice chair.
Well, we got to do the chair first.
Yeah,
Oh, do you want to do them
We
separately?
have,
Okay.
who did the nomination? Who did the motion for the chair?
I did.
And who seconded?
I did.
Okay, any questions? Well, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Now, vice chair. I nominate Elizabeth.
Second.
The motion has been made to nominate Elizabeth as the vice chair, and it's been seconded. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion's carried. You have the same chair and the vice chair that you had before. That means I can't go on vacation. I'm gonna take about 2 months off.
You have an extra month.